What's up, lads? So if your bench press is stalled out, or you're feeling tweaks in your shoulders or your wrists, or even if you're just looking to hit that next PR, listen up. This video is going to break down my top bench press technique tips. We've got 8 tips for you today, looking at all the most important and often overlooked aspects of good bench pressing technique. So I myself have bench pressed over 200 kilos or 440 pounds in powerlifting competition. I've helped dozens and dozens of men hit their first 2-plate bench, and several more even hit 3, 4 and even 5-plate bench presses in my years of coaching. So let's break the bench press down with these next 8 tips. Listen up, implement, get strong, hit your next PR. So first off, let's look at grip width. So if it's too narrow, you're going to be overloading your triceps. If it's too wide, you can be straining your pecs or your shoulders. So the sweet spot with grip is going to be usually so that your forearms can be vertical at the bottom of the lift. It's going to be a stronger, safer position and let you use both your chest and your triceps efficiently. Next up, let's look at wrist position. So a really common mistake a lot of guys will make is their wrists are like flopping back and the barbell is back behind their forearm. So again, we want to keep that bar stacked directly above the forearm. And one of the most important or best ways that we can ensure that that happens is actually just gripping the bar in the right area in our hand. Most guys, when they're grabbing the bar, they're going to put the bar too high up on their hand. They'll grab somewhere like this, and what will happen is once you take that bar out, the wrist will just fall backwards. We want to actually take the bar lower across the hand and also just rotate the hand slightly. So this is my ideal position. It's nice, relatively low in the hand, and that's going to allow me to stay stacked. Versus if it's too high, this wrist will flop back, and I'll show you now. So the analogy I always like to use is if you're like punching someone, if you're throwing a punch, you're not going to have your max power, you're not going to have max efficiency if you're driving like this. So again, we want to keep that knuckles up towards the ceiling, bar stacked nice and powerfully over the forearm. You're going to have more power that way by keeping the bar lower across your hand. Okay, next up, let's look at the elbow position, particularly at the bottom of the rep. So a lot of guys are usually too flared up this way, and you're going to lose power. But at the same time, we don't want to be tucked too much. So we want to have the elbow or the forearm angle here, the upper arm angle, about halfway between sort of totally flared, totally tucked. Somewhere around here is going to allow you to keep the elbow tucked underneath the bar. Because what will happen is if you're too flared up, your elbows will be back behind the bar, or up, your elbows will actually be up towards your head, or if you're too tucked, your elbows will be in front of the bar or down this way, and you won't be driving right. So again, we always want to keep everything stacked, so just nicely so that the elbow is directly stacked up below the bar. Next up, we're going to look at the most underrated aspect of good bench pressing, and that is proper leg drive. So most guys, when they're bench pressing, they're only focusing on upper body, their arms, their chest, but their legs actually provide a lot of stability and even power and momentum that can transfer up through the barbell. So if your legs are loose, or if they're tight but you're lifting your butt off the bench, you're leaking power and you're not going to be as efficient and as strong as possible. So here's how to lock in your legs correctly. Make sure that that power transfers up through the bar and into more strength on the bench press. Okay, so to set up my legs correctly for the bench press, I'm going to slide back, grip the bar exactly where I want it in my hand, nice and low. I like to slide my head back behind the bar. Then I set my feet where I want them and where they're going to stay. So they're planted, and now I'm going to wedge myself down and pull my heels down to the floor. From this point, if I lift my foot or if I adjust too much, I've lost that power, I've lost that tension that I've just built up. So again, reset your feet where you want them and they don't move again until you're finished the set. So once I've got my feet set, I'm going to flex my quads and my glutes. So they're nice and tight and tense, and I'm going to push out through the front of my shoes. So about 80% of my strength and my pressure is going forward in the legs, almost as if I'm doing a leg extension, or if I'm trying to slide myself back up the bench, whatever makes sense to you. But we're not pushing all our weight downwards, because that's just going to make our butt lift up. So I'm going to maintain that 80-20 tension forward and down. And then once I actually start to press, that's when I'm really going to take an extra kick or an extra slide up the bench and really transfer that weight through my legs up through the barbell. Right, next up, let's look at your bar path, and that's the way that the bar travels down towards your chest, where it hits and where it finishes. So that line should be consistent every single time. The analogy I always like to use, it's like a machine, or it's like a piston. It's just repetitive, the exact same every time. So correct bar path, it doesn't actually come straight up and down. A lot of guys will make that mistake. I think they press down and just straight up off the chest, but it actually comes down in almost like a J motion. So we start here and it curves underneath like that. So we start above the shoulders where the bar is lightest. So if you take the barbell out, you'll feel if you bring it down here, bring it up here, you'll feel it wants to sit directly above the shoulders. That's where it's going to be lightest. That's where you can hold the most amount of weight, and that's where you're going to be strongest. So that's where we want to push back to. Likewise on the chest, again, as I mentioned earlier, we want to take the bar down so that our elbows, our wrist, forearms are stacked neatly underneath the barbell, and we're pushing back to that light area again. So even if I'm struggling, or if a client is struggling, I would like to say push back, 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 and that helps to just reinforce that cue of where we're actually taking that barbell. So we're not just pressing it straight up, or often guys can kind of lose it here and they'll fail. Whereas if we focus on pushing back, generally that's where we're going to be most strong, and we'll push back into that strongest area again. So a lot of guys, when I watch them bench press, sometimes they'll touch the bar here, sometimes here, here. It's never completely consistent, and there's a little bit of maybe panic and inconsistency in that last inch down towards the chest. So we want to keep really locked in, hit exactly efficiently, and likewise at the top, we want to finish at the same line, come up and down in that same line every time. Next up, let's look at your shoulder blades and scapula position. So that's what's happening up here in the upper back, and that's going to translate to what your chest is doing, or your chest position as well, and your overall strength and stability in the bench press. So as we're setting up for a bench press, we want to pull our shoulder blades back and down. So think about putting them in your back pockets is the analogy I like to use. So again, they're coming back down into your back pockets, and they're going to stay there throughout the rep. So we're not extending through the shoulder blades like this. We're putting them into our back pockets, take the bar down, and they stay pinned back, locked in like that. And that's going to create more stability for you, rather than trying to move heavy weights up here. Those shoulder blades stay locked back and down in the back pockets. And by doing this, by keeping the shoulder blades back and down, that's actually going to keep your chest higher, reduce the range of motion for yourself, so it'll allow you to use more weight. That can be a little bit of an awkward or unnatural, can feel a little bit unnatural for a lot of guys, because it's rare in life that we'll ever, reach up for a jar or anything like that and keep your shoulder blades pinned back. But in the bench press, that's what we're going to do. Keep it pinned back, and we only extend as far as here. We're not reaching up with the bar at the top. All right, next up, let's take a look at our breathing. So again, it's an underrated aspect of good bench pressing. So the way I like to cue it is to take a breath at the top before you start your rep, and you're going to hold that breath all the way until the last maybe quarter, or just a final lockout of the rep. You can hold it all the way until the top again is fine too, but we're going to hold it at least until that final lockout. What you'll find is if you breathe too soon, or you breathe off the chest, it can create your chest to almost kind of collapse a little bit and just lose a little bit of tightness and a little bit of strength. So we want to, again, keep that breath in. So big breath at the top, hold, press, and then just breathe again at that last. rep. And we're going to repeat that. If it's 8 reps we're doing, we're going to take 8 single breaths. So that's it, guys. Those are the top 8 most important aspects of good bench press technique. I would highly encourage you to break these down, really integrate these top 8 tips into your training as you're setting up on your bench press, as you're warming up every rep from the empty barbell all the way up to your top set working weight. Make sure you're running through that checklist, doing a little body scan, checking in with your body, your position, your elbows, your wrist. Again, a full body scan, making sure that you're hitting every point. Again, these things, especially like the leg drive, they take practice. It's not going to be perfect from the start, but awareness and knowledge is half the battle. So stay focused on these 8 tips as you're bench pressing, and I guarantee you will hit your next PR.